Well, here we are back again, and next to me is Adam Coons, and Adam is the director of the Laramie Project, which is a story of Matthew Shepard, and we're going to find out more about the story behind the story. Jenny Pines is sitting next to him, and behind me I have Glenn Alkenberg, okay, and then Kevin Barheit over there, right? And the play, it's a very sensitive play.
The basic overall plot is in October of 1998, Matthew Shepard, who was 21 at the time, he was a University of Wyoming student and he was gay. He got picked up by two gentlemen at a bar and was kidnapped, tortured, beaten, and tied to a fence, and he eventually died. And Moises Kaufman, who I'm sure everybody's heard of, him and his theater group, the Tectonic Theater Project, actually went to Laramie and took over 200 interviews.
They did the interviews of the people
right in Laramie about their reaction to the actual crime, what Laramie thinks about homosexuality, that kind of thing. And so all of the people, there are actually 89 characters in the show.
Oh my
and
God.
They're played by
these four people.
No, they're played by 9 of us. They're played by 9 people, 3 of which are with me. So all of the characters in the show are real.
They're the voices
of the people of Laramie,
interviewed.
the people who live around Laramie. And they spent a year there taking interviews of multiple people, sometimes more than once, and those interviews were compiled into one show. And it's got a natural progression of like, what is Laramie, who is Matthew Shepard, the crime, and then the aftermath of the crime, the trials of Aaron McKinney and Russell Henderson were actually the 2 perpetrators, and how people felt about them.
Are they in the play?
Those characters are in the play. They are in the play. But it's a wonderful show. It's a story that needs to be told. I mean, it happened in 1998, but people still talk about it. They actually wrote a sequel to the show, Laramie Project, 10 years later, and how the overall effect of this crime has actually affected the town. But that's not really published yet. I mean, people don't really perform it yet because it was just written, but it's a very powerful piece.
This is, of course, not the only incident like that, but it stands tall to get the message out. Now, Jenny, you've been on the show before, I know that. How have you felt about being in this play? Because certainly, and I'm going to ask you all that about that, what is it like to kind of live through this experience that was written down, but still?
Well, it's very emotional. I mean, it's a very important play to all of us because there is so much hate and terrible things going on in the world, even just recently in Connecticut, and it happens every day. And so working with this play has been extremely important, especially to me, to really get that message out that we need to erase hate, and that, each day, even if it's just passing by and smiling at somebody, like paying it forward.
Pay it forward.
But I know that this show and playing all the different characters and living their lives, and we've all been working extremely hard because we want to do all of the citizens of Wyoming and all the different people that we play justice to show that, not mock them, not, make it as true as possible, to show how much they care and to show how much they aren't a place for hate, and that this was a terrible incident, and it's been emotional for all of us as well. We try to keep ourselves a little bit positive backstage, because once we're on stage, we put every single piece of emotion into it that each of the characters portray, and it's really hard.
I was going to say, because it would seem to me that some of the characters that not the characters, but the people that they interviewed were not probably very nice people.
Absolutely, and we all play a wide range of characters. Myself, I portray Moises Kaufman. I portray a citizen of Laramie who has just a deep-seated hatred of homosexuality, and then I can come on stage a minute later and be preaching acceptance, and so it's a very emotionally taxing play. We're only a week and a half away from our opening, and we've poured a lot of emotion into this show. We've we've shared tears backstage. We've broken down backstage. We've broken down on stage. And it is going to be very challenging to do this in front of a crowd because it only gets that much more emotional when you have the emotions running through the audience as well. And we realize there's going to be people who may have to get up and walk out of the theater. And
wow.
And that is okay. If that's how you have to deal with that emotion, that is absolutely okay. And there are going to be people crying. There are moments where you can laugh a little bit, and I think that's important to do during this show because it's very draining. But we have a very talented cast, and we're very prepared.
Kevin, how about you? I mean, I'm just listening to Glenn here, and it's like, oh my God, I can't even imagine. I mean, I know how I feel when I hear about hate crimes. It's like I just can't even imagine how much hatred is in someone to be violent against a person who certainly did not provoke them other than being. Can you address how this...
I think for most of us, we've never been in a play like this before. I know I personally have never spent time researching characters, researching the idea of what happened. I think for me, the most important thing was to realize we need to do this in memory of Matthew Shepard. This isn't about us. Most plays aren't, but this one even more so isn't. It's not a historical figure in my mind. It's not something I'm researching just to research and understand the times or the character or the voice. This is really about a person, and it's about the human beings within the show, everyone. My character is the narrator. I am one of the only ones that doesn't have the multiple roles, but with 89 roles and the multiple moments that come in, my job is to introduce everyone and introduce the critical scenes to help the audience understand this. And that means that I'm really understanding at a deep level each one of these individuals, each one of his characters, and each one of Jenny's characters. It is an emotional toll, but it's worth it because of Matthew. This isn't something that we're doing just for us or just doing to put on a show. We care about the effect that we have on the audience and we have on the community. We're doing some other work to really reach out to the community and talk to people and open our doors to people from a fundraising perspective to really let people know this is beyond us. This is far beyond us.
It's bigger than all of us. Tell me what happened to the perpetrators of this crime.
Russell Henderson and Aaron McKinney were the two perpetrators. Russell Henderson was sentenced to 2 life sentences consecutively, right, guys?
Yes.
we always get confused between concurrently and consecutively. It was very important to the families. The families were given. The family was given. The Shepard family was given the opportunity to have input to whether this would be a death trial. They were both death trials, capital murder trials, and the family was giving input into that. And for Russell Henderson, he was given those 2 back-to-back sentences. He'll spend his life in jail. Aaron McKinney was also given the life sentences. That was one of the harder ones because he was one of the more brutal assailants.
And I think what's important to point out there about the death sentences is that Judy and Dennis Shepard had a big say in the outcome of those trials. The judge and the jury listened to Dennis Shepard, and they decided that it was not right to put 2 men to death for having killed another. They preached, forgiveness.
Wow.
And they did it in the memory of their son. They did it in the memory of Matthew. They granted them life, even though they took away their son, and I think that's very important.
Well, 2 life sentences in prison, and I can't imagine what's going on in prison for them.
Absolutely.
So it's I don't even want to go there.
Yeah.
Adam.
I mean, one of the things that that Dennis actually says in the show in regards to the life sentence is he says it's really a powerful statement, which is, I grant you life in the memory of someone who no longer lives. And then he goes on to say stuff like, every time you celebrate Christmas, a birthday, the 4th of July, you just remember that Matt isn't. And I think having to live with that kind of guilt for the rest of your life is probably a worse sentence than the death penalty.
Oh, absolutely.
And without a doubt, the death penalty is an easier way out.
It's an easy one.
And to be there when he said that to him would have, I don't even know what I would have done. How do you react to something like that?
It's an
an amazing speech within the play because we do have an excerpt from it, and all the tears that everybody comes on stage with are 100% real. But not to mention that, just so this all doesn't sound so very serious, we do have some nice comedic reliefs in there. So
it's not all bad.
No,
Yeah.
it's not.
Good characters.
There isn't.
And that's one of the points of the plays. Laramie was not a bad place. It was.
Well, they're bad people in a good place sometimes.
But bad people are everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to know, is that where there's good, there's evil, and vice versa.
And it's such a large part of our population. The gay community, the LGBT community. I mean, these are all productive people living good lives and for people to have such hatred, it just is beyond. I'm sorry, it's beyond my comprehension.
Yeah.
me too.
I can't, and I applaud you for taking on a challenging play like this and performing it because it's such. We need to get these messages out and to have people realize that if they happen to be gay, there are people that are supporting them.
Yeah, it's. I think Judy Shepard, Matthew Shepard's mother, had written a book, and I forget exactly how it went, but she said it best, and she said, we don't have to give up our beliefs or our values to respect people.
Exactly.
Everybody deserves respect, everybody deserves compassion, and you don't have to compromise your own beliefs to give somebody that.
That's true.
And it's very important to know that.
Well, if you want to see a really remarkable play, and I encourage you to, because sometimes, we talked earlier about Dirty Rotten Scoundrels being a very funny and great funny play and musical, but sometimes we have to also realize that the message that comes from the stage is also an important one for social issues. And I believe that we're looking at the Laramie Project as being a very important social issue that we should all address and perhaps get into somebody else's skin and find out what exactly happened during that horrible time and find out how the families felt, how the people who perpetrated this, what was going on in their minds. These are important things that we have to address, and I think that the Albany Civic Theater taking on a play like this is incredibly challenging, and you're doing a wonderful job to get this message out.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Can't wait to see it. So, I'm Ann Perillo for Schenectady Today in and around the Capital Region. When we come back, we're talking with Lauren Harrington. We're going to be talking about, and it's called the Savvy Caregiver Workshop by the Alzheimer's Association. This is an important project for the Alzheimer's Association, and you can find out if you're a caregiver how you can get involved. Thank you all for being here today.